Tongue, feet, and testicles. Doesn't sound very appetizing, does it? But we're about to meet someone who's trying to change our perception of animal parts. The topic, nose to tail cookbooks. Hi, I'm Justine and this is Bookends. Jennifer McLagan writes cookbooks for the animal parts that most of us ignore, or even the ones that make us squeamish. Her newest cookbook is called Odd Bits. I'm going to chat with her today, as well as the head butcher at The Healthy Butcher. Now, ever wonder what sweetbreads are? Because you're about to find out, and let me tell you, they are not sweet, and they have nothing to do with bread. Let's go on in. I'm with Jennifer McLagan here at The Healthy Butcher, and Jennifer, we've got a few little odd bits already here in front of us, and we'll talk about these in a minute. But I just wanted to, first of all, ask you, when you talk to someone about odd bits like this, when you're talking about some of the oddest ones, like brains, testicles, how do you convince someone, just go out and try it?
It's very hard to convince people sometimes because there's a prejudice, between their ears. They think they don't like it without even trying it at all. So I try to make recipes that not disguise it, but are just really tasty. And sometimes I say, just try it. And if you don't like it, you don't have to eat anymore. And usually when they try it for the first time, they actually like them. And then you say, well, this is testicles or brains or something a little bit different. They go, oh, or even tongue, which is a pretty normal thing to eat as far as I'm concerned. They go, oh, it's really delicious. I didn't know it tasted so good.
Now, wasn't it just not too long ago that odd bits weren't so odd at all?
That's true. I mean, odd bits is kind of a term today for them. But, when I grew up, I ate brains and kidneys and liver. And my grandparents for sure ate all those things. You can even look in something like The Joy of Cooking, a book that everybody knows. There's recipes in there for testicles, coxcombs, really weird stuff, as well as liver and kidneys. It's only today when we've become so far removed from the animal that these we think of as odd or different. But it's really no different eating a tenderloin to eating a tongue. They're both muscles of an animal.
Why do you think that's changed?
I think the main reason it's changed is because our meat has become relatively cheap with factory farming, prime cuts, steaks, and things that our grandparents used for special occasions. Even something as simple as a chicken. Roast chicken was a special Sunday event, but now chicken is like an everyday meal. And the cheaper it became, we bought those prime cuts because they were special, and we forgot about the odd bits or those extra bits. And we stopped eating them and we stopped cooking them. And then they became odd. They were no longer familiar.
Now, I've noticed that your cookbook is written very much like any other kind of book, as opposed to just a cookbook, because you have the little history lessons and you talk about the types of meat and whatnot. Why did you decide to write it that way?
All 3 books I've done have been that way. When I first decided to do a cookbook, I thought, why does anyone need another cookbook? That was my first question. And in a way, nobody does, because probably every recipe is already out there in a book somewhere.
Right.
So I thought, I need to do something else, and I need to make it interesting, and I need to make it interesting for me and everyone else. So I like history, I like the background, I like to put food into its context. So I like to put little kind of weird trivia, like why is some things called offal? Where does the word offal come from? And, I like to put these little bits of information into the book. Why are they called sweetbreads? I think that's interesting, and I think other people find it interesting too. So I like to deliver more than just a recipe book. I like to give you a book that you can read, and even if you never cook from it, I do hope you do, that you'll find something interesting to read in it as well.
So sweetbreads, what? I don't even know what sweetbreads are.
Sweetbreads, and we actually have one here I can show you. It's the thymus gland in an animal, which is a gland that grows in the neck, and it only grows in very young animals.
Which one of these is this?
This is a lamb sweetbread here, which you don't see that often. It's quite small. And there's 2, it's called sweetbreads because there's always 2 of them in the animal. One grows in the neck and one grows further down on the top of the lungs, which is called the heart sweetbread. This is the neck sweetbread. And
so why is it called sweetbread?
Well, bread was an old word, brat, which just meant food and meat, and then it was special, so it was called sweet. But it has nothing to do with bread and has nothing to do with sugar.
It's not sweet.
No, it's not sweet at all.
How do you actually, take that first step? Because you, in the intro yourself, say that you have this thing against lamb brains and tripe.
Yes. And that's my mother's fault, and I don't Well, I still blame her today because it was the way she cooked it. And I think this is a lot for people. The first time they ever had brains or liver or tripe, it was probably not very well cooked. And so that stayed with them. I think everyone has a story about eating liver that tasted like shoe leather. And they go,
I have one of those.
Yeah, and so they go, oh, liver, I hate liver. But if you have liver that's grilled, that's still pink in the center, with a nice sauce on it, it's absolutely delicious. So I kind of wrote the book to cure myself from these prejudices I had, and now I love tripe, and I love brains.
Okay, now here's my favorite part. We've got some odd bits here, so let's go through some of these. Where do you want to start?
Well, we're talking about...
The tail or the head?
We don't have any lamb brains here, but we do have a lamb tongue. And I think people think tongue, because it looks like their own tongue, that, oh, it's got this big black patch on it. Well, that means nothing. Once cooked, it's a beautiful piece of meat, thinly sliced in a sandwich. Tongue sandwich is delicious. Tongue with salsa verde. So any animal tongue is absolutely delicious.
Is it very tender, or is it like
it's quite
hard to bite through?
No. Once it's cooked, it's like melt in your mouth. Absolutely melted.
I've had cod tongue.
Have you?
That's the only tongue I've ever had.
Well, any kind
in
of...
Newfoundland. I think when you go to Newfoundland, you have to try it.
and cod cheeks. And speaking of cheeks, this is a cheek. And people go, cheeks, right? They're thinking down here. But these are these cheeks out of the head of the animal. And it's just this nugget of meat that's in the cheek. And this is a pork cheek, which is great because you just braise it. It's a braising cut because you can see the fat in it. But it's perfect. You don't have to do anything. It's perfect size. Like you don't have to cut it up into little squares. Beef cheeks are delicious. Lamb cheeks. Perfect. Any braising dish you have, any stew recipe, try using cheeks instead of what you normally do.
No, I love this guy.
Yeah, well, that's a pig's tail, right? And everyone thinks they're going to be curly.
Yeah,
because you see the
cartoons.
Yeah,
right?
you see all the illustrations, and they're not. They're delicious to eat. They have like this wonderful fat, this meat, and these little crunchy bits here. But even if you don't want to eat it, if you're making a stew or a braise, you pop this in.
And it gives that flavor?
It gives flavor, but it also helps thicken it up.
So what do we have next here?
A foot. Same animal, pig again.
Now how do you eat the foot and here's an ear.
Yeah, that's an ear.
I wouldn't know where to start.
And they need to be slowly braised. That means they need to be cooked a long time until they're tender. And then with a foot, it just falls off the bone. It's a lot of cartilage in there.
But you don't eat like the hooves because I would think that's very tough, or do you?
No. This comes off. That's probably about the only part of the pig you can't eat. That and the squeal, right? No.
But when I think of feet, I'm like, you don't eat the hoof.
No. You just eat. There's meat there, cartilage, lots of chewy, gelatinous pieces to eat. Some people don't like the texture, but again, you can also use this to make jelly. You can make instead of using gelatine to make jelly, you can make your own jelly using pig's feet.
And what do you do with an ear?
An ear, braise it again really slowly, and then once it's cooked, cut it here and then flatten it, and then you can cut it into really thin strips and you can make a delicious salad with it. You can leave it whole, put on the barbecue and glaze it with like a barbecue sauce, and it goes crispy and crunchy, and there's what's in ear is this cartilage, and the ear is soft and chewy and the cartilage is crisp and crunchy. It's a great combination between the soft fattened skin and the crispy cartilage. Delicious. Now,
is there anything that scares you with food? And I mean like outside of the animal or anything out there that you've said that, no, I'm not going to try it? Like, for example, I've had caterpillar. Like, is there anything out there that you're just like, that scares you?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of insects, though I've had ants. I've had chocolate-dipped ants, and I think about insects too. It's in my brain because something like a shrimp is really like a giant insect, right? And I don't like, in Australia they eat witchetty grubs, which is a big fat worm, a bit like a caterpillar, but they eat it alive. I think they also eat it cooked, the native peoples. I think I'd like to have it cooked. I don't think I want to eat anything that's still moving.
Okay.
I think I like...
As long as it's dead.
As long as it's dead, then... Well, but then, I eat oysters, and oysters are just opened and they're just alive. So it's really, it shows me... See, everybody has a prejudice, and it's like overcoming that prejudice with food. You need to be open, and sometimes you need to go, well, don't tell me what it is. I'll try it and see if I like it, and then I'll make the decision. Yes.
Great. Jennifer, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So now I've got Dave Meli with me, head butcher at the Healthy Butcher here downtown. So how often do you have people actually come in and say, I want to buy tongue or lamb brains or whatnot?
I would say it's a growing market.
Really?
But it's not a huge market. Like it's it's one of these markets where those who are looking for it are looking for it. There's, and you can't convince somebody who's never thought about eating a beef tongue to buy it. But
really? So like a person comes in here and you don't try to convince them?
No,
try it.
you really got to try it.
I guess that's too difficult.
Yeah, it's the idea of like throwing a tongue on someone's plate is, if you didn't think about it, you've never eaten it before, can be kind of daunting.
Are you into odd bits yourself?
I am in certain ways. Like I would say everyone's got.
What's your favorite?
Myself, I prefer charcuterie, like using it for charcuterie. So there's a lot of odd bits that you can cure in certain ways, and it turns out fantastic.
So you have 3 other recommendations here. Why don't we go through these 3 cookbooks here?
Great.
Let's start with this one.
Charcuterie. Okay, so like I said, my favorite way of dealing with odd bits is to make something like charcuterie with it. Either to throw it into sausages, some of it you can cure directly. Something like a pork jowl, you can cure it and make guanciale, and it's an incredible type of charcuterie. The River Cottage Meat Book, in my perspective, is probably one of the best books on the market to learn about meat as a whole.
Yeah.
Incredibly well written, great perspective on both, taking so many things into perspective, and it's not just an angle, like a very, dare I say so, like it's not a flaky angle where it's just like you should do this because it's good for the world. Like, it's good for everything. It's good for the quality of the meat. It's good for he talks about like the care of the animals, straight from the care of the animals to eating the whole animal, and how to make sure that it's delicious and good for everything. So
right. And then I saw that somewhere in here he actually shows like how, like, this is dairy, right?
Absolutely.
How he shows the process of how an animal is slaughtered.
That's right. Yeah. And so it makes you appreciate the whole animal. And so if there's any one good reason to even try to eat the bits of an animal, like the stuff that you wouldn't consider, is that a lot of times we tend to forget that it's coming from a live animal. Good Meat. This is a newer book on the market, but I really liked their use and some of their illustrations on how to eat whole animal. Definitely talked really well about, like, he had a recipe for every single cut of beef, which I thought was phenomenal. And then he does that with with countless animals. I think he goes through lamb, pork, chicken. And so when, he's giving you recipes for not just the major things. Like, a lot of times when you read cookbooks, it's all, especially meat books, it's all 1 or 2 different cuts. Like, this is 15 different recipes for beef tenderloin. Thank you. I don't need a recipe for beef tenderloin. I would like a recipe for how to deal with sweetbreads. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I really like about this book, was that, he does a really good job giving you methods to not only eat sustainably, but what it really means to be eating sustainably.
Dave, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Well, you can find all the info on these 3 cookbooks as well as Jennifer's on our website, bookendstv.com.